Good morning from chilly Vancouver, Miss Rosacotto, or should I say Frozacotto?
Yeah, Frozicado sounds about right.
And we're wearing like complementary colors, purple and orange.
Trying to say, hold on. Okay, now I can see you.
Well, they're not complementary, but they're secondary colors.
It's funny because on the in the lighting here, this actually isn't really orange. It's more of like a light, like a rose.
Is it?
Yeah, it is.
Wow, your lighting sucks.
My lighting's. I've got my ring light on.
My lighting sucks even more though.
See, I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, how are you?
Well, as per usual, just out of bed.
I'm the same way though. It's Sunday.
Yeah, right. But on my but I work at Doer Thursday to Sunday, so today's my Friday from the store, so that always gives motivation. And we work
Point.
and we work an hour less on Sunday. We close earlier, so it's like
That's good.
bonus. But you got your latte, your coffee. I got my water.
My coffee. My coffee.
Mhm.
Today is a special Sunday recording because it was one of the only times we could get her on, and we're so stoked to have her.
Mhm.
Jasmin Parkin, and Jasmin Parkin is the keyboardist and one of the singers for the Vancouver-based band in British Columbia, Canada, called Mother Mother.
Mhm.
Mother Mother is quite a big band actually for Vancouver, for BC. They're great. They're awesome. Indie rock. Like I'm trying to figure out like how to place them more. Like a little bit more indie rock. I love them. Just phenomenal band. I did see them once a number of years ago, where they were playing alongside Sarah McLachlan and
Right.
Bryan Adams. It was a pretty awesome big outdoor show. She's like multifaceted.
I noticed that. I was looking her up, and she's a yoga teacher. She teaches in North Vancouver. She's a director of North Yoga in Squamish, which is amazing. So lots of interesting parallels between both of our industries and lifestyles. So I'm stoked to get to know her.
And one of the reasons why, no, not one of the reasons, the reason why she couldn't meet during the week is because currently she's taking her training to become a registered massage therapist. So it's like,
Phenomenal.
what doesn't she do? I've got so many questions for her.
Is she a mom? Does she have kids?
I don't think so, but
That explains a lot.
correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, but I mean, like, but not everyone, even if they don't have children, to be motivated to do all those things. It's really neat.
Yeah. In addition to that, though.
And she's talented with everything she does. So it's, there's definitely some sort of internal drive in there that not everyone might have.
Mhm.
So she'll be popping on pretty soon. Some really kind of exciting news for us is we surpassed 750 downloads through Buzzsprout. So Buzzsprout is like our podcast platform that houses our podcast episodes and then kind of disperses them to all the juicy actual platforms like Apple and Spotify and Stitcher and all those things. So that's really exciting. We've been doing this about 4 months now, and
exactly for 4 months. Yeah.
couldn't be more grateful and excited to continue this journey and move forward and provide all this content. So continue downloading, continue
Subscribing, following, liking, saving, maybe loving us. Yeah.
angry faces. I'll just, express yourself the way you want to express yourself. But
Express yourself.
is that a song?
Yeah, I think so.
It's always a song.
Yes.
Anyway, so it's funny because you know how a couple days ago yesterday I think you were talking about snoring, right? So I had to move my bed downstairs last night because my husband was snoring and I couldn't sleep, which is funny because I said to you that we both snore, which we do. But I was wearing earplugs and I couldn't sleep. So I had to sleep downstairs. And then this morning, just before I popped on here, Adriana was like, you were swearing in your sleep, like yelling this morning. So we both had weird.
Whoa.
I don't remember my dreams. I know I dream very vividly every night, but I'm known. Yeah. So Hero, by the way, and everyone out there, I'm known to talk in my sleep. because I have a lot of
Interesting.
dreams. Yeah.
Interesting. I know I twitch quite a bit and I breathe deeply, but I say, because I'm a yoga teacher, if I'm not breathing deeply, then there's something really seriously wrong, and maybe
Mm.
best not to be a teacher if you're supposed to be teaching the breath or the regulation of your breath. So I joke around about that, but that's really interesting. Yeah, because just getting to know someone right now, as I was saying to you, and spending the night with them, and then they're snoring, I was kind of like, I'm not annoyed about your snoring, and not at all. Like that's a human way of our behavior. But it's just because my father has sleep apnea and my
Mm.
mother also snores. So, and I'm also a sensitive sleeper. So when I'm asleep, I think I stay asleep pretty well. But for me to fall asleep, I need that just like that uninterrupted kind of stimulation around me to have a peaceful entry point. Otherwise, it's very hard for me to fall asleep.
I am the same. I'm actually almost exactly the same way as what you.
No way. A
And I,
fellow Aquarius too.
yeah, I also usually need like almost pitch black.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Like I need really, really dark rooms. So our bedroom upstairs is like full on, blackout curtains.
Mm.
So whereas downstairs, I'm surprised I did sleep okay because it's not as dark. But
Well, because you didn't have anyone snoring in your face.
I can't blame him because I do too sometimes.
We're not talking about Adriana right. We're not talking about you right now. We're talking about Adriana.
Scary thing is that for the most part, if I'm yelling in my sleep, I swear a lot. Like if I'm whatever I'm saying, but it's funny because I don't remember having like nightmare dreams. They're just like I'm just very expressive in my dreams and very.
Is it? And it's always like subconscious, like suppressed emotion or stuff that's happening deep below you too, though.
Yeah, I guess, but I just what I mean is like I don't remember last night's dream, but I will remember he'll be like, "Oh, you swore." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I was just like annoyed by so and so, but I wasn't as angry as it sounded like I was
Hmm.
out loud."
But are you wearing pants right now? Are they off you? You're like you were swearing so much, like you swore the pants off of your body.
No, that would be so impressive though.
Not as impressive as the man taking them off without you realizing.
Right?
Yeah, which just happened to me before.
Oh my gosh.
Great timing.
Oh gosh. Here she comes.
The suspense is tingling.
It's killing me.
Hello, hello.
Jasmin Parkin, hello, girl. How are you?
Can you see? Okay, hi.
Hi, I can totally see your gorgeous
Oh,
face.
good. Lovely to see both of you. Good
Yes.
morning.
Good morning. Nice to meet you in the virtual flesh.
It is lovely to meet you too. I'm sorry, it's so dark today. It's super dark in my apartment and like it's very sad. So
Oh, girl, you don't look that shady. That's my job.
But you have like a glow from the light to your right.
just like coming in on one side.
Yes, absolutely. Now just do the slow blow.
I love it. How are you guys?
Well, pretty good for a Sunday morning. And we thank you so much for carving out your time on a Sunday.
Oh, no problem. There honestly, like in RMT school, there's just no time like you just have to make time for stuff. You know, it's insane. It's like it's the most insane thing I've ever done in my
I know.
life.
Where are you studying right now? What RMT college?
I'm at WCCMT.
Okay, because my friend just finished VCMT, and so like I relate. I can relate to what
Yeah.
you're going through. Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh yeah. No, I have couple of friends actually. One of them is in Vernon here because I moved to Vernon a couple of years ago from Vancouver.Maybe you knew that. I'm not sure.
You're in the interior for sure. Yeah.
So and she has built her own home practice, but this was when they went to school to be at RMTs. It was maybe like 6 or 7 years ago, and even then, I mean, I don't know if it's changed at all, but they were just like not sorry. I'm like telling you just started. They were so stressed the whole time.
No, it's true. I made like a funny meme this morning about like it's like a consecutive. It's actually a picture of me studying that my friend took. Like just the worst, most stressed out look on my face. Like I just look so upset. And like, I was like, here guys, it's the, you know, the progression of me through the terms. It's like term 1, term 2, term 3. I just use the same photo. It's like exactly the same every term. Like it doesn't, it doesn't change.
No.
I think I was in a group of friends the other day and we were talking about it. And I think every single one said, like, one after the other, if they had really been able to like truly kind of understand what it was like to be there, none of us would have done it. Like, yep. And we wouldn't have done it. Like we would have been like, no way, it's just too much.
Really? So yeah.
Tell us more. Inquiring minds want to know.
Well, I just want to say, like, just before you hopped on, we did do a very short intro, but just like, how multifaceted is this woman? Because you seem to do so many things and so many things well. And I want to first commend you for that. And I just, there's so many questions I have, but I guess we'll just start with maybe you give yourself a tiny introduction. We kind of just said, okay, Jasmin Parkin, she is one of the singers, keyboardists for Mother Mother, which I didn't realize was actually formed on Quadra Island. Technically, it's funny, on Wikipedia, they still say Quadra Island based instead of like Vancouver based, or
I think that's just kind of a mistake. Like the band wasn't really actually even formed on Quadra. It was just that Molly and Ryan grew up on Quadra Island. So they grew up there and they're brother and sister. So they're like formed on Quadra Island, but like that never really happened until everyone was in Vancouver and much. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Wikipedia is not always entirely accurate.
Now we know. Okay. Yes, goodness.
Exactly.
And then we were saying, of course, yoga teacher, now studio owner, you were one, but not anymore, right?
Right. Yes. Okay. So a couple of years ago, I sold my half to my partner up there, and moved back to the city. It was just like stuff with Mother was taking over, like as it does. It's always kind of takes precedence over anything else. It's always priority. So I moved back to the city when I think we were making another album and we were about to go on tour. So yeah, it was kind of fortunate in a lot of ways to have gotten out a couple of years ago before COVID hit, because my partner, actually my old business partner, he closed the studio.
Oh, he did?
After like in the first few months of COVID.
Oh my God. I've always wanted to go to the studio and I never had a chance to. Damn.
Good.
I can relate, as you know. Yeah. I also count my lucky stars that I don't have the studio that I had in North Van now. Even though, and we'll get to, we still haven't gotten to that on an episode about me talking about my experience, which we do want to, but we can even talk about it now. It's up to you. But anyway, I digress a little bit. So with that being said, is there anything you'd like to add to that list? I mean, you're doing your RMT now.
Oh God, no, I think you pretty much summed it up. It's like, yeah, I like to do stuff. I like to explore life. I love learning. I love, meeting people, and major passion for health and wellness. And so, the RMT thing was weird. Like it just sort of like it came to me like a year and a half ago where I was like, I think I need to do that. Like out of the blue. It was so one of our band members was thinking about making a solo record, and we were like, we're typically like every 2 years we make another record, release a new record. So every year essentially we'll like tour for the year, and then we'll buckle down and make a record and then release it the following year. So it's like every 2 years. And this particular year, it was like, you know what, we're going to take it like a full extra year between album cycles. So I was like, okay, I'm looking at the timeline, like 20 months, like it's tight. It'll be tight. I may have to take a defer for a term or something if something happens with the band. But I was like, I think I can squeeze it in, which was ridiculous. Like, it's just absolutely ridiculous to think that. Now looking back, I'm like, I'm so insane. Like, it's ridiculous. So I decided I could feel it in my bones. Like it was the right thing for me to do. With yoga teaching, it always felt like I don't know if you can relate to this, is what, are both of you teachers?
Yes, we're both teachers. I mean, you and I also both went through the same training, but I went through it later.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so amazing. You can probably relate though to like teaching classes and try to help people. And there's like always with just your yoga teacher trainings only kind of go so far as like what you know about the body, right? And like you can know a lot and you can take a lot of trainings, but like the level of needing to study anatomy to like really, really get it in your bones is it takes a ton of dedication. Oh. And I was like, I'm ready to like learn on that level. Mm-hmm. And so that was sort of part of the reason, like, I felt like I could only go so far with yoga. And I wanted to take it to the next level, kind of, so to speak. I didn't realize it was going to be like taking it like 400 levels. But yeah, so that was the reason why for that. There was time, quote unquote. And it felt right. Just the healing on a different level.
Oh my goodness. There's no rest for the wicked, it sounds like, for you. It's like, wow, so with that being said, I think do you guys have another album coming out soon?
Yes, we made an album. So in this summer, managed to like work it around school and stuff like that, which is, everyone's been so supportive, which is the most lovely thing. Like our management and just like Ryan, the band, everyone's like, it's okay. We'll figure it out. Which is so nice. So I managed to just squeak in making a record in July. Yeah. Which is great. It's super exciting. We weren't going to make a record, but everything kind of changed with COVID. It was like, okay, well, now we're not going to be able to tour. So I think we'll just like get into writing and recording.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's going to come out this year. Like in the next few months, we'll start like rolling out singles and stuff like that. And yeah, it's exciting.
Well, it's so interesting because we've talked to a couple people, and I've mentioned his name a couple times now because it's the first one that comes to mind, but just because Jay Rodriguez, who was one of the original or OG Queer Eye guys from the original show, our show, and the reason why I mention him is because he's also he was a Broadway theater, and he's what would you call him? He's a gig guy, so he does live, like that's what he does, and he's shelled up. I mean, he's in Los Angeles. It's probably the worst place to be right now with COVID. And he's just in his apartment, like, just, like, what am I going to do with this creative energy? Mm-hmm. So, and that's the reason why I bring that up, is because it's great that you guys kind of shifted a little bit. And we're like, okay, no, this is what we're going to do this year. And we're still going to be creative. Mm-hmm. But I guess my question is, without the touring and stuff, like how are you guys doing? Like, how's the psyche? Because I really want to talk to someone in that industry, such as yourself, just to know. Mm-hmm. I can't, like, I feel devastated for you. And, I grew up with musical theater parents, and I feel devastated for like the whole live music scene. So it's
totally. And the venues, the venues, right? I think we're probably gonna arrive back at a very different place when we are finally able to tour again. I think it's really, unfortunately, it'll be the smallest and like most kind of cool venues that give like new artists and like unknown artists chances all the time, that are going to be the ones that have, end up maybe closing. Like, fingers crossed we can keep some, but it's just, it breaks my heart. It totally breaks my heart. As a band, we've been so lucky through COVID, because we toured the year prior, so 2019. So we had like revenue from touring then, and which was like so lucky, because some people were like they had finished their album cycle, they had taken that year or 6 months or whatever to make their record, and they were like ready to release and go on tour. And like for touring, that like I can probably speak for like 90% of the like, Canadian bands that make all of their money from touring. Like it's the only way you make money because that's the kind of state of the industry.
Yep,
we don't sell CDs. We don't sell really many albums anymore. It's all streaming, and streaming money equates to usually very little. If anything, for people, particularly when you're on a record label and you're recouping debt, like all that money just pours into debt and stuff, which is fine. Like if you're lucky enough to have a record deal, it's fine. But yeah, we were super lucky to be in that position. And so we had a little bit of time, like as in we weren't all gonna like need to go on the CERB or whatever. We had like money stacked up in a bank account, which is amazing. And then like this year has just been, it's been mind-boggling what's happened. I don't know if you know anything about like what's going on with Mother right now, but it's insane. It's like the most, so we've been a band since, so I've been on since late 2008. The band started in 2005. Mm-hmm. It's always been like a progressive, like, small incline, like where it's like, okay, we're like fairly successful in Canada. We have like a really good touring situation, a really, a small to medium great following type of thing, and that's just been sort of like steadily inclining over the years. But like we're all almost 40 or over 40, and like kind of in that place where we've been doing this for a long time, and we're like, okay, we're kind of winding down, we're gonna like take a little extra time, right? So we're like going that direction. And not to say that we would ever, I think everyone feels the same way. We're going to do this till like we can't get on stage anymore. Like we're like, there's no way. Like we'd have to be dead for us not to be playing shows. So anyway, the idea was to wind down, but something happened. Like some weird magical fairy dust thing where a lot of our old music from an old album from 2008 called Oh My Heart, the young kids, like and I mean kids, like we're talking like 8 or 9 to like 15, 16, 17, on the app Tik Tok started to circulate our old music. Like out randomly, like so randomly. And there's this like massive, like weird underground, like non-binary, like interesting new kid audience basically that have made like essentially like 12, 13-year-old songs like hits. Like it's super. Rolling Stone just did an article on us about like how it was like, yeah, it's like we're like, what is going on? So
wow.
Oh my God. I mean, Oh My Heart is the song that was running through my head all morning. I mean, it's like the most, maybe like subconsciously I was hearing it more and not realizing, right. But holy shit.
It is holy shit.
And TikTok is, again, like one of those new social apps that like, I don't even use TikTok or have it. I watch Instagram Reels because they copy TikTok. Like I'm 28, 29. Like I'm still kind of young, but I don't like, I'm like TikTok, I'm like, ugh, I don't got time for that. So to see that other social platform has taken off and has gaslit things that were in the past to now, I mean, it just shows the power of influence of things that people find once they've been gone for long enough, right? And it's like, oh wow, how did we not know about this? Well, kids, you weren't alive then.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I know.
Which also shows that you were ahead of your time in some ways, because if it's relevant to them and they're alive now, that's huge. And I'll be completely transparent. I'm not much of a music buff. So like, I of course know the name Mother, and I'm sure I've heard tons of your music, but it wasn't something I was cognizant of because it wasn't necessarily the genre of music that I was drawn to.
For sure.
But in my queer youth group when I was, 15, 16, so what was that, like 2006 maybe-ish?
Yeah.
It was huge in my youth group. Everyone's like Mother. And I think, again, it's because of the content, without having background of all of your music or lyrics, that there's a reason why the kids today are being pulled into that, because there's an inclusivity, there's a context that they relate to. And now I'm going to go listen to your music, obviously, but you get my point.
Totally. And you're bringing up such a beautiful point. So Ryan does the writing. He writes the lyrics and the music, and we generally like arrange stuff together. But Ryan's writing, like, it's always difficult, I guess, to be objective about like your own band's music, but I don't write it, generally speaking, other than a few co-writes here and there. And so like for me, I feel like I'm able to be pretty objective, and I was a fan of the band before I was in the band. So like for me, it's like, I'm a fan of Ryan's writing. And like, particularly in that time of like Touch Up Oh My Heart, when everything first started coming out, it was like a really special time for Ryan, in the sense that like he was writing like with just zero, like unadulterated, like just completely doing his thing. And so like the music was so weird and just so eccentric and interesting, and like I'd never heard anything like it before. And I think honestly, like the what you brought up with like being a little ahead of its time, I think there were people for sure that caught on, like that were like, whoa, but it was like a bit too weird and like too left of center for a lot of the kind of regular folks. And I think it was harder for them to get it. And so it was always like that grind of like, not enough people quite get it, you know? And so, yeah, so these kids, it's just like, it's bizarre, but it's the right generation that they just, I think particularly with this non-binary movement, it's super interesting to us because we're learning a ton, because they're like, oh, you're like the voice of this generation. And we're like, actually, we're older than your parents. So learning.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So yeah. And just all this like gender fluidity and all the things, like it's really cool for us. It's really, really cool.
Unbelievable. Honestly, it is. I'm kind of dumbfounded and just so excited for you guys too. Now, are you still with Network?
No. Okay. So what did we have going on with Network? We were never signed to Network.
Okay.
We started off with Last Gang Records, which is a small label out of Toronto. And then we, like, how long ago? Maybe 8 or 9 years ago, we signed with Universal Music, and then we finished our 3 albums with Universal, and we're just signing to new record label now. And I think I can say it. I'm like, can I say it? We're signing with Warner. I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to say it, which is pretty exciting. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my God. And the reason why I asked that, and I just realized that, is I feel like there's an association with Rick Baker.
Yes, totally. So Rick is a really good friend of Ryan's for forever and ever and ever. And yeah, and Rick worked with our management company for a long time. And yeah, we know Rick we all went to the same music school. So it's like all kind of, yeah.
Wow.
Actually, I worked at Network for a little bit of time while Rick was there. So that's why. And there's like all these funny degrees of separation. And then one thing I have to mention actually is you, I think, are related to one of my really good friends up here. So I think that you are I'm going to try to get this right. You're the niece of my friend Ray Noel, Ray's sister. Ray is Robbie and...
Yeah. Rob and Robbie, yes.
So Robbie is Robbie the female?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so I love the names. So no, Robbie is Ray's sister.
Oh my God. Because you said Ray Noel, and I was like, that sounds super familiar, but we're not as connected. Oh. But yeah, so Robert and Roberta, which is the best ever. Yes, hi, Rob, Robbie. Rob is my dad's brother.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so Robbie's my aunt through marriage, yeah.
Wow,
so Ray's partner Tanya is a massive fan of yours, and they've seen you so many times. And so I told her this morning, and she's like, "Did you know there's like a relation there?" Anyway, I just had to mention that. But this happens, people, like when you're all kind of from the same area, Vancouver. Like even though people can seem kind of standoffish in Vancouver, we're all somehow connected. So
yeah, exactly.
It's really small here. Hey, it's so. Hero, are you in Vancouver as well?
Yeah, so I grew up in Kerrisdale. And I'm from Rachel and I are both Jewish, so I came from a very casual ish background, ancestral background, I'd like to say. And now I live in I like to say Yaletown adjacent. Like,
Okay.
like this weird unidentified crosstown at Smythe and Richards where there's nothing around me, but if you go one block in either direction, there's everything around you.
Right. Totally. That's a good little hood there.
It's a good hood. The new park is coming up across the street, and it's like the first park in 10 years that downtown Vancouver has had created. So I'm sure that little quadrant will eventually have a name, but right now I just say Yaletown adjacent.
Right, Yaletown adjacent.
I don't need to be in Yaletown, so...
I hear that for
Where
sure.
Where did you grow up though?
I grew up in, so it's called Merville, which everyone's like Merville. Right. It's just outside of Courtenay, which is on Vancouver Island. So kind of like Mount Washington is like the mountain that's out there. Okay. I grew up like at the base of Mount Washington, super rural, like forest and that kind of thing.
Definitely get that vibe from you, which is a good thing. Like I get the kind of forest nymph, kind of fairy, like I'm just easy breezy. Let's have a good life. Let's treat people with kindness and let's, take advantage of what we can take advantage of while we have our bodies. Like you just have this very earthy presence, which is really, really cool. Not everybody has that.
It's good to know. It's good to know because I feel like such a stress case lately. Like with school, I it's funny because I'm the oldest person in my class, and I always say like how I don't know how these kids manage, and I'm stressed out like 99% of the time, pretty much, and so like I think when I'm not in doing things like I'm doing at the moment, that's. Thank you for saying that you can still see that, because I definitely sometimes I'm like, I've lost her. I've lost myself. I've lost her completely.
No, it's always there. It might get masked and then you might get taken off the path. And, from yoga speak, you might, the vrittis, the fluctuations of the mind and the body are going to happen, but you just find yourself in the middle and you're finding yourself in a deeper way because you haven't had the ability maybe under these circumstances to find yourself in these high levels of stress, right?
Totally. That's a beautiful point. Well said.
And Hero kind of touched on it a little bit because I do want to go back a bit. I want to go back to, because, we like to kind of get under layers in this show and not just talk about the surface, like what's happening right now in your life. But how did you get to, well, first of all, how did you get into your love of music or not even just that, but who was Jasmin growing up? Like, how did Jasmin get to where she is today? You don't have to go through like year by year, but
if you want.
We've got, how much time do we have? But
yeah. Sure. How did the music thing come to? I think my dad really gave me music. My dad played guitar and was like a beautiful singer, and he was always like, there was always music in the house, like a huge record collection. And my mom also super music appreciator, lover when I was little, and she actually got into singing and stuff later. So there's just a ton of music in my house growing up. And I became interested in piano when I was like 6 or 7 years old. I think I started kind of doing some classical lessons and that kind of thing. And I was really not into like the framework that is like classical, where it was like I had to sit up really straight and like I mean, God forbid you have good biomechanics when you're playing piano. Like back in the day, I used to hate it. They'd put their hand on my back to remind me to sit straight.
I remember that.
Yes. You took piano lessons as well. Yeah.
Briefly.
Yeah. I just found it like I had great teachers too, but there was a strictness that I was like, I've always had like a touch of the rebel in me for sure. And I was like, no, like I do my own thing. Like I get up at noon and I like to like, slouch like crazy over this piano and do what I want. So, my dad was friends with this guy who lived in Cumberland. So this is in the Comox Valley, who is this hilarious Irish musician, like absolutely superb musician, just knowledge out the yin yang. And he was like a 4-finger Scotch drinker, like smoking cigarettes over top of me while we, you know, like kind of thing. He'd be like sipping scotch and smoking. Wow. It's hilarious to think of now because I was like 8 or 9 years old, and like imagine the parents of today like allowing their kid to be.
I love it.
Wow.
I loved it too.
It just speaks to the generation. I feel like we're almost around the same age, but yeah, the age where, you know, we could go out and play until God knows what time. Your parents weren't worried about you. There was no cell phones. There was no whatever. And the guy and this piano teacher obviously had good intentions. It wasn't.
Oh yeah. No, he's family friend. Like, you know, they knew each other. It was all cool. My dad and him used to go in the back and smoke weed before, like they would be, oh, go warm up kind of thing. They'd go in the back and smoke a joint together. And then he'd come out with his cigarettes and it was just hilarious.
Wow. Love it.
I love it too. It's so funny. It was totally normal to me at the time. Mm-hmm. So I didn't even really think anything of it. But looking back, it's so funny. But he kind of provided that, like, okay, like totally away from classical. So I decided I wanted to learn jazz because my name's Jasmin. I didn't even really know what jazz was, like, to be totally honest. I was like, nice. And he was the kind of blues jazz guy. So he said, well, if you want to learn jazz, you got to learn the blues. So he taught me how to play the blues. And then he started teaching me jazz standards. And it was in like within the kind of, he would record him playing the jazz standard, and he would kind of sing, like he'd hum along and sing the words and stuff. So I started just to do that, like just sort of repeat what he was doing. And he kind of recognized that like I had a voice. He was like kind of the first person to be like, oh, like you're pretty good at that, you know, like you should try incorporating the singing thing in. So he kind of taught me to put the singing with the playing. And I mean, that was it. It was like, it was the best thing ever. Yeah. I used to just practice for just hours and hours and hours. I homeschooled, and I was not joking. Like I would get up at noon and I'd immediately go to the piano and just like slouch over it and like go to my happy place. It's like meditation for me. Like I definitely can compare the two things. You're just in like a totally different connected world. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's so cool because it sounds to me like you had a childhood where you were like free to do what your heart felt. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's true, but it sounds like, you know, whereas, you know, nowadays, I mean, especially now with all the rules and regulations we have around COVID and all that kind of stuff, but like that I don't know if that exists as much necessarily, but it also just kind of proves what Hero said about being that kind of forest nymph for just the free, like there's a lot of freedom, it sounds like, and you just were able to hone in on that, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's like for sure my parents provided like a really interesting, you know, different kind of open and free upbringing, which you know worked for me in so many ways, like really fostered creativity, and they were so supportive of me playing music, and almost like too supportive. Like when I wanted to do other stuff, they were like, no, you do music, you know? Yeah, so I was never like told I shouldn't look at music as a viable career. I was always in, like so many people's parents, you know, and rightfully so, are worried about them trying to do that. So I just like foolishly thought it was all possible, which is like, I think the reason why I ended up where I am, because I believed it could happen on some level.
Well, that's the thing. Anything really can happen. And I think it's important that parents of children in our generation, the generation coming up after mine, after theirs, even after my cousins who are 12 years old, or 6, actually, they're 6 and 12. It's about the parents and the emphasis that they put on to believing in yourself. And even if it's delusional, like who cares if it's delusional? If someone can set the intention they want to set. Let them figure out, no matter what their chronological age may be, if it's sufficient and if it's viable for them. And knowing that you will support them and hold them accountable when you need to. But how many parents actually can get out of their own subconscious and their own PTSD from their upbringing, where they actually allow their children to be authentically who they are, no matter who they are, even if they're causing self-harm, which hopefully they're not. But that's my point, right? It's just like, let them do their thing, because they need to figure it out on their own.
That is such a good point. And I never really thought about that in the context of my upbringing, but that's exactly what my parents provided, was just like,
wow,
just do your thing, you know?
Yeah.
Just do your thing. Absolutely.
That's interesting, because I feel like that kind of speaks to, you know, flash forward now to around our age. And then it's kind of like I have to keep telling myself that I'm never too old to reinvent myself. We're in a different age group or demographic where it's like having to almost tell ourselves what we should have also told ourselves as kids, that, you know, you can, first of all, it's never too late, but that you can reinvent yourself. I don't even know if you know what I'm trying to say, but
yes,
it's just, now it's a slightly different narrative. And it just kind of reminds me of what you're doing now. And you're saying you're the oldest person in your class, but you're still doing it. And you just kind of like, fuck you. Like, this is what I feel like I want to do right now. And this podcast, like, there's times where I'm getting close to 40, but I'm like, I feel like people are just kind of reinventing themselves, doing their own shit, like doing new things at any age now. And it's okay.
Yes.
It's totally okay. It's not a faux pas. It's not a sense of failing because you're restarting. Like, there isn't this idea that you have to have the same career for 35, 40 years, retire, and all these things. Like, people are changing all the time.
Yeah.
You know? So you're right.
Yeah. People are really realizing that old model is bullshit. You know, that
it is complete bullshit.
It's bullshit. And that we can be brave in life rather than comfortable all the time. And sometimes it's that, I mean, I would say anytime you're brave and you make a decision to do something really hard or uncomfortable, whatever that may be, you know, there's always rewards. Like, the path almost always is going to lead to like other paths and other amazing things. Like, the worst thing to me, like literally the thing that to me would be absolute 100% hell, like I just wouldn't want to live it, is being stuck in a job that I didn't like, that I had to go to every day, full time, whatever, add in commutes and everything else, that I was unhappy at and just stay because I was afraid of money stuff. Like, I know I'm really privileged to say that because I don't have kids, you know, I don't have other stuff to think about in that sense. But I do think that people like really put themselves in that box and they don't know how to get out. And I empathize with that, and I sympathize with that 100%. But like, also part of me is like, my mom went back to school when I was 14. And she had a grade 8 education, and she was doing like Science 9 when I was doing Science 9. She had 4 kids, and no money, you know. And it's like, if she can do it, anyone can. Like, I think about where I'm at as well with RMT school, and I'm like, oh, it's so hard, and like, and then I think about my mom, and I'm like, okay, like, I have nothing to complain about, you know.
Well, yeah, you're right. And I mean, not in the same way, but I guess same concept. Rachel and I have Holocaust surviving grandparents. So when we think about our little troubles or things that we are going through, something as simple as like, oh my God, I lost my full-time teaching. Like, for me, I lost my full-time teaching schedule. Now I have to hybrid and work in retail. And I am juggling 3 things, wondering if I'm ever going to get my full-time teaching schedule back at the place I was at before. Is that really a life-threatening thing? No. Do it to change your lifestyle? Yeah. But do you have your health? Yeah. Are you being shot by Nazis and, you know, anti-Semitic Germans and other people from Eastern Europe and around the world in another country? No. Okay. Well, then shut the fuck up and don't and don't discredit your own experiences and feelings, because that's also much on the other side. But count your blessings and count them very often and have gratitude without disservicing yourself, right? So
totally,
it's all spectrum, it's all contrast, it's context.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think we have so many similarities, because just like listening to Jasmin talk about one of your nightmares being at that 9 to 5 job, being maybe I think of like being stuck in a cubicle with no windows and and that's actually also been one of my nightmares. And I've tried to do it. I've tried to fit in that conventional box and I couldn't. Yeah. I tried. I was the most depressed I've ever been in my life when I was doing that years ago. So, and all three of us, none of us have kids. And I know that I guess we have the time. We are more privileged that we can make those decisions because we don't have the dependence there. So I get that. So I'm sorry, everyone that's listening. That's like, but I have a couple children. I don't think I have a choice. It's
I definitely wholeheartedly like, single moms and single parents and stuff. Like, I know it's a completely different ball game, and it may be that they do need to stay like until the kids are a certain age or whatever. And so like disregard what I said about that being hell, And also there's a lot of people who are super comfortable in that 9 to 5 and like really like their routine and, or like a lot of things about it. And like, nothing's perfect, right? Nothing's perfect. The hard path and the brave path is really flawed too in so many ways, right? So it's, everything is not for everyone. Everyone has their own thing. And that's the beauty of life, is that variety.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Go ahead.
I love how, can you see like how Rachel
know each other so well. We're like, we can see on each other's faces.
Yeah. Okay, Rachel, we're gonna do the head turn. Rachel?
No. I don't know where you are in the screen.
No, but jokes aside though, let's see if I can remember my train of thought. But again, you kind of talked about a bit of your upbringing through music, but I'm also really curious to know about your upbringing just as Jasmin, like not Jasmin the musician, not Jasmin the yoga, just Jasmin, like the core of who you are and your upbringing. Like, what was it like for you in school? What was it like for you as a human being and socializing with other people? How did you view yourself in society and the world? Because you talked a little bit about it.
Those are big questions.
Of course.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's why we get juicy. I cut right to the bottom of the box, girl.
Straight to the heart.
Yeah. I don't waste fucking time. I'm all about that. So, girl, dish.
I love it.
Let's get into it. We're 2/3 of the way through the conversation. We don't got much time. Let's do it.
Okay, let's get to the point. Okay, so right to the point. I had obviously a really unconventional upbringing, like very unconventional. My parents were like crazy tree planter hippie people. We lived on a commune. And so, yeah, you can imagine my world was filled with really colorful people. Like, there's lots of like obviously amazing things about that. And then there's also the other side of that. Like, I was exposed to saw lots of drug use and stuff as a kid, and like crazy, nothing overly insane, but we'll call it interesting and also very colorful for sure. But I thrived in that environment in a lot of ways. It really depends on the type of kid you are, so there wasn't a lot of structure. It was like, there's no bedtime. There's no, So I didn't understand like going over for sleepovers and stuff when parents were like, okay, it's like 8:30 p.m. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I just woke up. Like, yeah. So it was really interesting, like meeting what I called like my straight friends and like going to their straight homes and like really like organized, clean, like not like hippie shacks that were built out of like salvage wood type of places, and like experiencing what that was like. And I think it gave me a super interesting perspective. I always felt old. I felt really, really old. I think everyone thinks they're an old soul on some level. And so to say like, I'm an old soul is like, sounds kind of funny. But I did definitely feel like I'd seen and kind of understood a lot more than a lot of kids, and knew that, and like was willing to sort of like protect them from the stuff that I knew.
Yes.
So that's really interesting. And other than like who I was, other than music, like always creative, always creating, like not really, overly talented at like art or anything like that, but I always loved everything from like painting and drawing to I was always making stuff like with my hand, like crocheting and sewing, and it was really creative household. So
amazing.
Yeah, I've got 3 brothers, so that was good times.
What are the age variations between the 4 of you?
4 of us. So my older brother's 6 years older than me. Mm-hmm. And then my 2 younger are 2 years and 5 years younger.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
okay.
the spread.
Yeah, a little bit more spread. Like Silas and I are closest with the 2 years apart kind of thing.
Yeah. So then what brought you off the island then? What brought you off the island? I feel like it's Survivor or something.
What brought you to Ponderosa?
So clearly, like growing up on like where I did, I always wanted to live in this. I was like, this stupid place like holds me back, like I didn't really appreciate how incredibly beautiful and wonderful it really was. Mm-hmm. So growing up as a teenager, I always wanted to be in the city, and I knew probably wanting to go to music school and stuff that I was going to eventually end up in the city, which is exactly what happened. So I moved over and started going to music school in my early 20s, and that kind of brought me here.
And which school did you go to?
I went to VCC.
Okay.
There's basically, if you want to do any kind of contemporary music, there's 2 schools. It's CAP and VCC. But Capilano is like an incredibly strict kind of bebop jazz program. And VCC is like, we're going to teach you jazz, we're going to teach you classical, but we're also like completely open to you bringing different styles and forms of like whatever. Your instrument might be weird, your style might be weird, but they're kind of like, I kind of saw them as being like the program that I wanted to do kind of thing.
Okay. I didn't. Mm-hmm. My girlfriend, Kat Torin, who is a jazz pianist, and she lives in Brooklyn now, actually.
Wow.
Went to CAP, and but I didn't realize, and I remember her going through music school and how strict it was. Yeah. That's all I kind of remember about it. And all of her friends, I mean, everybody was just so into it, and so it was just like their whole world. But I didn't know that huge difference between the 2.
Yeah, it's a pretty big difference for sure.
Mm-hmm. And so then what brought yoga into your life? Because, I mean, that's another, when I think of yoga, you think of, well, I guess it's obvious, like a free spirited. I mean, I feel maybe you grew up with yoga. I don't know if you did with your parents.
No, I didn't actually. That's interesting. My mom said she did a bit of yoga in the 70s, but it was not like any really part of her existence for me growing up or anything like that that I remember. Yoga was like I kind of heard of it. It sounded weird, kind of thing. But when I was in music school, I started to get issues with my hands and wrists. So like just too many hours of practicing with like really bad positioning and and I'd had other jobs and stuff that had stressed my wrists, like serving and working in coffee shops and stuff like that. So I always had like a little bit of issues going on there. So I thought, well, I'd heard, yoga is the all healing, magical thing. And I'd heard about Yoga Pod because you guys remember Yoga Pod at all? Yeah.
There's another, actually, that's so funny. There's so many parallels. When Yoga Pod when they were over, I don't know how you want to put that. I actually took a couple of the benches out of that studio and they were in the yoga route.
Wow.
We repurposed some of their furniture. So,
wow. That was the saddest thing ever when I got that email. And like, I understood obviously, but it was just so sad to see such a successful space with like those amazing owners and such a nice community. And anyway, my very first yoga experience was at Yoga Pod. And so, of course, I was like incredibly spoiled to have gone to Yoga Pod and like taken Todd's class and Lori's class. And like, I like every class there was just amazing.
Yeah, they were great.
And so originally I kind of like really enjoyed the hot yoga aspect. I was like, could not believe how much I sweat and like how amazing I felt afterwards and that kind of thing. So I got kind of addicted to the hot stylings. So I ended up, I don't even know how, because I lived in East Van, so Yoga Pod was not super viable for me. So I ended up at West Coast Hot Yoga.
Oh, wow.
And which is every class is hot, obviously.
Yeah.
And
I've been in that studio.
You bet. And it was damn hot too. Like not just a little hot, like they were like, we're the hottest hot yoga studio on the West Coast, you know, like
they made Oxygen look like shit.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I think this is even, they were kind of like OG, like before Oxygen ever was a thing.
Yeah, very OG.
Sorry?
Commercial Drive?
No, West Coast Hot Yoga is in Yowtown, and they also still exist in White Rock now.
Oh, never mind.
So they had 2 studios, yeah. So I was at West Coast Hot Yoga I practiced there for years and years and years. And like I started just basically going to yoga 6 days a week, and like the addiction came and the reason I think I really started to, so Ryan and I were a couple. I don't know if you guys know that, but we used to be a couple. We were together for like quite a long time, like almost 5 years. Wow. And in our late 20s, we split up. Like we were in the band together. It was this huge thing. It was like it was like for me, like I call it like my coming of age. Like it was like the hardest thing, you know, like emotionally that I'd ever gone through at the time. Like, we split, and like 3 weeks later, like he moved out of our apartment. 3 weeks later, we were like on tour, like in a hotel room together, like sleeping in separate beds for the first time in like 4 years. And it was just the weirdest, most like mind fuckery experience. It was really, really hard. And so yoga for me started to become like the only place that I felt good. I went through like a pretty bad depression. So that's, I guess, like where it started. And like, obviously since then it's been a huge journey, and like, I don't do hot yoga anymore. And it's like a total, you know, everything's changed, but I'm really grateful for that experience and that it brought me to yoga.
No kidding.
Wow.
It's amazing, right? And through emotional development, emotional self-awakening, I think people come to yoga practices, and I don't mean just asana, I mean the lifestyle, the concepts of yoga. And sometimes that is just, you know, the basic bitch asana, as I jokingly call it. But it comes from the, or not so jokingly, but, you know, it comes from the idea of self-reflection, introspection, and sometimes it's from an emotional experience you end up there, and sometimes it's actually an emotional experience that is provoked within you, not knowing when you actually stumble into it. So it kind of seems like you had an emotional experience that was very much for you, and then it came from that. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely. Okay. And like initially I went to yoga because I was like, I feel good, and like I feel like I'm exercising, I'm working out, you know, like that kind of thing. Sure. And then it became like, oh, every time I go to yoga, like I feel more connected. I feel I'm starting to understand this breath stuff. I am starting to feel shifts, and like those little things, the quotes from the Bhagavad Gita and like other things that teachers would bring in. It was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And like, so it was sort of like the initiation to like just barely scratching the surface of seeing what like a spiritual path kind of looked like.
Yeah.
So what was it like for you to go through the process of doing your teacher training? Because it's different for everybody. And I also read about the training you went through and the people that facilitated your training and the faculty. And so you don't have to name names, you don't have to name spaces or anything like that. But I'm just curious to know about your experience as a student and the effects it had on your life and how you took that from those experiences.
Yeah, well, yes, it's obviously a really interesting story. I had a really, really positive experience there. And I think like what was created there was so much positive outcome, as well as obviously some stuff that was really wrong going on. So I think there were elements of cultishness going on there that like at the time I didn't really see. Like I wasn't overly like involved in the kind of inner workings of what was going on. I kind of showed up for my teacher training. I didn't work, you know, intimately. I did I did teach there a few times after my teacher training, but like I was simultaneously opening the yoga studio and taking my teacher training at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it was like, I was sort of like doing my own thing. And I think between our main kind of asana teacher, who was absolutely amazing, Michael Olivato, if you ever, okay, so you ran into Michael. So I was Michael's last training, I believe.
Okay.
And I'm so happy that we got him, because he is such a like sensitive and kind soul. And, you know, he was kind of totally mainstay of the training. And so, yeah, I mean, it's tough without being like, there's this other guy, you know, who was kind of running the show behind the scenes, who clearly had some, we didn't know at the time, but like was doing some pretty shady stuff. Yeah. So
okay.
It's so, it's interesting how even in the yoga industry, I'm doing this because it's still an industry. Like you know, you would almost only hope that you could give your soul and hope that it's going to be this like real experience and a trustworthy, and it's all the beautiful things that yoga stands for. But
it's a corporation.
Yeah, it's still, and here when I've talked about this numerous times on the show about what is yoga now in Vancouver, and like what was the inspiration for even my studio, I'm guessing even your studio, like just to not be like those other studios. And it's just such like it's like an oxymoron, really. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting time, because obviously like a lot of studios have shut down because of COVID, and yoga will probably look pretty different with the studios that do survive kind of through it. And so like the questioning of like yoga and money and that, you know, corporate stuff being together, maybe people will look at it a lot differently over this whole, you know, like reevaluate kind of how we've done things, you know, yoga for profit type of stuff. But I mean, clearly even a studio like where we did our training, it's like that was yoga not for profit, and it was still riddled with problems, you know? Yeah. But yeah, I lost my train of thought, but something, you know, it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
The moment you attach an overhead over any business, doesn't matter what kind of business it is, all of a sudden things start to hit the fan, and your initial impressions or passions and your spirit starts to kind of get sucked out of you, no matter how much backing you have. And some people have tons of backing and they can do a lot of things, and they can kind of be in their own space. And I would say of those owners or those founders, there's very few of them that actually understand the budgeting enough to actually float and actually profit, if not at least break even. So that way they're doing something great for a society and they are breaking even. So at least they're not losing, and they can keep the legacy of that concept of business for the years to come.
Yeah.
You know, so, and I've heard a lot of incredible things about North Yoga. I know most of the teachers that taught at your studio who are colleagues of mine, friends of mine, from when I was a major studio teacher, and now not so much at all, and by choice. So I'm really grateful that the things that you and Gabe were able to create from the community in, I guess, North Shore, it's still Squamish, right? So North Shore area going towards Whistler, how much you did create, and how much of a, you know, like when I heard about your studio, I really heard like, it's the studio to be at. This is a premium studio with incredible teachers. People beg to get into that studio to be on the schedule. And so I was really happy to know that there was a studio that was not pretentious, but that was, we only have so much space. We only have so many opportunities to share the practice with the community. We want to make sure the people that we can share the practice with are of a certain integrity and authenticity. And I think those teachers that you did foster, they channel that, and all from different walks of their lineage.
That's really cool. Yeah. We were just so incredibly lucky in the beginning with the people who were like, sure, we'll come on, like Kristen Campbell and Julia McCabe, and came on. Lucky. Oh my God. Just Zari. Like unbelievable people. Like I honestly attribute all of that. Gabe did everything. Like I was like, when we opened the studio, I was like, okay, like I'll be your like right hand man, but like just so you know, like if you want to do this, you kind of need to want to do it sort of alone, because at any time I could have to like go somewhere and tour, or like, you know, like what you need to do here is like, you need to want this that badly that you're willing to do it kind of without a partner, even though I'm kind of there.
Yeah.
And he was like, yes, like I want to do it regardless. I was like, okay. I reluctantly kind of dragged me a little bit, kicking and screaming. But, you know, he like his strengths were really like in that networking and you know, getting those teachers on board, and like, and it was really them that created that environment, like just the mixture of personalities and teachings and stuff that created that. Like, I'm just so, it was just like, I really feel like, okay, yeah, I was there, but like, I didn't really do anything. It took on a life of its own, you know? Yeah.
It's amazing. So, as we start, I just can't believe what time it is already. I know, I'm like, we do have a lot of commonalities, and I feel like we could just talk forever. But so as we kind of start to wrap up the episode, what do you want to either plug, or, you know, getting to kind of stuff like where can people find you? Are you, well, right now I know you're totally immersed in doing your schooling.
Yes.
But even, you know, what's coming up with the band, like you were talking about the new album coming out, which is so exciting. And I just saw, I think, because I was following you guys on Instagram, your Spotify downloads and your followers are astronomical. It's like, what is it, like 6 point something million?
It's insane. It's utterly insane. So this is what I was saying with the TikTok stuff. So our streams went like a song that's like 13 years old has like 60 million plays, where you're just like, how the hell? So people can obviously find us on Spotify, Mother. Go there and listen and add to our astronomical streams if you'd like to. We're all over YouTube and everything else. Obviously we're not playing any shows, but we are planning to do like some really cool live stream thing when the album comes out. We don't have a super particular drop date for album, but sometime in kind of spring, summer probably. So that's going to happen. And then, for yoga stuff, I'm teaching. I was teaching actually still regularly up until 2 weeks ago. I've been teaching at Ma actually. And I love Ma so much. I love Farhad and Sophia and the team. Like they've been so good to me. But obviously with school, I was like, I can't do regular classes. So I'm just kind of picking up work if I can, type of thing, which is like basically non-existent at the moment. So, but yeah, I'll be at Ma once in a blue moon. And I'm on the Ma kind of online world as well. I've filmed quite a lot of classes for the Ma Yoga online stuff. So if anyone wants to see a pre-filmed thing, I'm there. And that's basically it.
Amazing.
And they can follow you on Instagram too, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll put that stuff in the show notes. That'll all be in the show notes. So we'll make sure we do all that. But
awesome.
Again, just so happy and grateful that I finally get to talk to you face to face.
It was so nice to meet both of you, and what a lovely conversation. I really appreciate you, caring and wanting to chat about everything. Thanks for my venting session.
Oh my God, no, this is what we foster on our platform is authentic, real, candid, unscripted conversations that really bring our guests into a place where they can be who they want to be, like as they are, no matter what they come from or what they do, and that's it. Like we get right to it.
I love it. Yeah, it was lovely talking to you both.
Thank you. So and it's like Rachel. One of our kind of joking questions we always like to leave with most of our guests at the end. Sometimes it's not appropriate on the tone of conversation. But if you were to be a kind of juice, what kind of juice would you be and why?
Pineapple juice, I think.
Okay, yeah.
Mostly because pineapple juice is the most delicious. but there's something kind of like sassy about pineapple juice.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Oh, girl, I know what
tangy,
you mean. Mm-hmm.
little tangy, pretty sweet,
and
tropical and fun. I mean,
absolutely.
I have pineapple juice now. I haven't had pineapple juice in ages.
That's funny. It's actually one of my least favorite fruits, but I totally get the sensations and the taste, and I totally agree with the way you described it. So it's funny how we have that contrast.
Let me ask you that. What is your juice if you were to be a juice?
Oh God. I actually got to say that I definitely will copy some of our guests. If I was to go to a juice bar, I would always get the green juice for sure. Whatever the green juice is with fruit, so that way it has some sugar to it. Yeah. I love my beets as well. And it's funny because I love raspberry and I love watermelon. So watermelon is an easy juice, but raspberry is more of a puree because it just doesn't have that constitution. But if there was an actual raspberry juice and it wasn't fake or artificial, I would say raspberry juice with a little bit of vanilla.
That is like, the way you broke that down is so impressive. Like, let me just tell you exactly, like raspberries. I just love how much you thought about that. Yeah, absolutely.
That is hero in a nutshell. Like, essentially, that's hero. Yeah, I love it. That's good.
Yeah. So
raspberry nectarine. Sorry, I had to add.
Ooh, nectarine too. So good.
Oh, you're delightful.
Wow.
Delightful too. What a wonderful conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. All the best to you. Keep in touch.
I will do for sure. I'm always around.
Oh my God. If you need case studies, just hit us up.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, my body's fucked up. It needs help.
Okay. Amazing. So I think everyone's, but yeah,
exactly.
Hey, I was going to say again, if you are willing, like more towards when the album does drop, if you want to come back on, you're more. So you always have home here.
Great. I would love to. 100%.
You always have a home on our boxes.
Great. Love it. The more boxes, the better.
Holla.
Boxes.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Okay, great. We'll have you back. Totally.
Beautiful.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Restful day, hopefully. Sure. Okay.
I will be studying neurology today for the day, but yeah, because right. Yeah. The central nervous system is oddly complicated.
I know, and so is the PNS.
Yeah. Put that in there. I actually did the PNS last term. So.
Oh my God! And how did it do?
You know what? I did pretty well in PNS. Just
amazing. I know that's my profession as well.
Oh, I love this.
You posted on CNS though.
Oh yeah, please let me know. That's definitely more your. Well, I don't know whose domain it is, but sure ain't mine.
No. I don't think it's anyone's. Like, even the people that know a lot about it are like, "This is fucked," and you're like, "Yeah."
Mm-hmm. And then don't we give someone the ANS?
Yeah, no. Nobody wants to know about that.
No, well, I mean, I love them, but trust me. Okay, we're wrapping this. We're done.
We're doing it. Okay.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
Thank you.